morning. It is so nice to begin a chilly show here with you on 3+U. Like a lot of you, I'm sure, I've been cooped up the last several days, so it's nice to have a chance to get back out amongst the world and be at work this morning. And the time is kind of perfect, really, because this is the time of year when we talk an awful lot about seasonal depression. So these snow and icy days have kept a lot of us cooped up inside, and it can be a very, very real thing. But for an awful lot of people, the depression that comes with that seasonal change doesn't always ease up when the warm weather comes back, and the emptiness it creates can really be debilitating. So lucky for us, Charles Miller is on the show this morning. He, of course, is a frequent guest with Scenic Neurotherapy, and he's back talking about not only the seasonal depression, but then the longer lasting for folks who struggle throughout the year. So good to see you.
Good to be here.
You told me that right off the bat, it's a vitamin D issue for a lot of us. Is that right?
It can be, yeah. It's we're like most things that live, we thrive in the sun. We thrive being outdoors, the colors of nature. I think you and I spoke off camera a little bit about, just being in nature and how it's rejuvenating. Well, there's physiology behind that, and part of it can be a vitamin D deficiency. Letting the sun hit our face is a way of helping with that, but it is also something that we can't always avoid. Our lives are not always conducive with finding outdoor time, especially when it's cold and gray like this week.
Yeah.
We stay indoors a lot more. We're in conditioned space, and just like a plant, we start to shrivel a little bit.
Yeah, or you begin to lean towards the sun like your indoor plants will do. So let's pop around a little bit this morning, because you wanted to end with something that I'm going to go ahead and start with.
Okay.
And that is that you don't work in isolation. You very much do what you do with other practitioners, and so you have these education sessions for doctors to come and learn what you do.
It's what we do. We're one piece of a whole process. We are by no means a replacement for what currently exists out there. And we want other providers to understand that and really understand what we do. I think a lot of providers out there have an idea, or they think they have an idea about what we do, but there's holes in their understanding. And so we've opened up our facility once a month for educational meetings, to where providers can come in and we do group educations. So it's really low pressure. If you don't want to contribute and talk, it doesn't have to be one-on-one. If you want some one-on-one, we can do that as well. But it is, the most important thing is that the providers in our community, mental health providers, even internal medicine providers, understand what we're doing and how we can help, keep patients from going down a path that is chronic.
Right.
We can actually divert it early on in the process before there's a bigger problem.
You and I have talked for a long time over the last, 24 months or something like that. And I don't know why this is just this morning striking me, but we talk about physical therapy, speech therapy. The name is Neurotherapy because your brain can be strengthened, and that's what you do.
Exercising emotional muscles, keeping the physiology in the brain optimized, because I think we look at feelings as being these ethereal things. They're not by any stretch of the imagination. They're the movement of synapses in the brain, and the result are thoughts and feelings and emotions. And so what we're doing is optimizing the processes that are unconscious to produce the best conscious response possible in your brain. And it's a step before just, what psychotherapy does. Psychotherapy exercises it, what's there. We take what's there and optimize the physiology. So when you do the work with psychotherapy, you just get greater gains. Is
it sort of like, I'm an analogous person, you know that about me. So if you're trying to lose weight, you exercise and you eat healthy. Same idea?
Exactly. And we have to make sure that when we do that work, that the work pays off, that the physiology complements the work you do. If you have a metabolic issue,
right,
to where when you exercise, you're still not losing weight. That's what we see with people with depression a lot. It's like they're doing everything they're supposed to do, yet they're not making the gains that they want to be making. And so what we do is we enhance the way physiology responds to environment, the way the brain is responding to the world around it. And when we do that, all of a sudden we're getting, when we do the work, they get the reward.
Right.
And that is the goal of all of this.
You also don't do just one thing. Everybody has a brain, and everyone's brain responds and works in different ways. The last time you were here, I think it was, you had shared with me, I couldn't believe it, the work that you've quietly done for the last 3 years to work with the VA, and you're the only, as I understand it, the only one in the country who's petitioned the VA, and in Tennessee, this is covered 100% for veterans.
For our veterans, this is 100% covered with a VA referral. Yeah, and the way that we have structured things with our local VA, it is very much a one-on-one agreement to where they will cover not only, they will cover every aspect of our services. Completely.
I just think that's worth saying because and I know you get this. I mean, people come to you, Charles, and they have their initial meeting with you, and they come to talk and counsel and see what this is going to do to benefit them. And even though I'm sure they're partly in to begin with, they've got some head scratches of, or can I be sure? A lot of people will have that. So to hear that you had to, I'll say it that way, convince the VA of the benefits, that's no small thing.
It's, I think, I would love to take credit for it. A lot of the veterans were coming and paying out of their own pocket. We had special pricing for our veterans and our first responders already, and we still do for those that aren't going through the VA. But we encourage them to go through the VA because now that this is set up, it can be a covered entity. But I think that a lot of the veterans were going back saying this should be covered. Every time they would go to their meetings with their VA provider, they were like, I did this on my own. I'm doing better now, and this should be something they should see. And so that was the best argument we could have made, was through the patients.
A few things before I have to let you run. One, do you only see adults, or can teenagers come to you?
We can see teenagers. When we're dealing with under the age of 18, it is more of a comprehensive process, both parents involved, pediatrician involved. It is, you know, it's always a group effort, but we will broaden that group.
But in the day where teenagers have such struggles of their own and mental health, is something you can at least have a conversation about?
What we do, there's no potential for dependency, there's no need for a wean off, and what we do is passive enough to treat a 3-year-old technically. But what we're working with is you know, there's some self-awareness involved.
Sure.
That's necessary. And so the maturity of the youth is necessary. And so you know, there is some age limitations. Okay,
we mentioned depression a lot today. You also work with PTSD, anxiety, a lot of chronic pain.
Lots of chronic pain. Enhancing the way the brain not only speaks to itself, like with mood disorders, but with the body is also what we do. Just correcting inappropriate responses from the body to the brain and vice versa.
And if this is kind of the first step for you on a road to improving and you don't yet have a mental health provider, you can still come and talk with Charles. He'll help find you one because what he wants is to not be the one piece, he wants to, not the whole piece, just one piece of the road to you being better.
Yeah, it's very important that we have a comprehensive team, a team that supports all pieces of you. We're dealing with the physiology. You know, I use the analogy a lot. If we were doing a knee replacement and you don't do the physical therapy that follows, that knee replacement's not going to do a whole lot of good.
Right.
You know, you have to do the work that follows. It is a multidisciplinary process, and just like that's the same with us.
Well, here is their website. It's ScenicCityNeurotherapy.com. Their phone number 228-0579. On that website, you can learn all types of things, including if you're a provider, there's a provider tab when the next educational session will be. Thank you.
Thank you.
Feels good to be home.
This week only at your local Ashley store. Get up to